about season. I always, I count my blessings that I've had some really amazing bosses that I've learned a lot from. My current boss, Mayan Wong at PAC NYC, directly told me, she's like, it's okay to be difficult. And I was like, oh, permission to be difficult. Right. It's my job as a producer to prod, to question, to make everything better. And like, what are they going to do? Fire me? And then I'm freed from all the woes of institutional life, right? So I'm always just like, okay, it's okay to be difficult, to ask questions, and to use my seat at the table as a privilege.
I would also be remiss to say like that this is gold standard arts foundation. Like, we're Asians. Like, there's a cultural aspect to this that I think is hard to define, of I was taught as a South Asian Bengali person, it's hard to just like ask for more stuff. Like I'm generalizing completely, but a lot of people in my field, we're just grateful for everything that we get. And that gets conflated with like asking for basic necessities when presenting work. And like what your boss said is like invaluable, because that's like that moment that permission switch turns on. You're able to find language, you're able to find resources, you're able to talk to people better, that communication bit, that trust bit, all of that stuff starts. So you get to be a key player in those systems. But you don't get to be a key player if all you're doing is showing your gratitude for everything and the scraps that you're getting. You don't really get to, because you're basically not considering your work as dignified as other people's work, right? And so I think there's a cultural element to this too that's worth noting. I'm not saying everyone sits in that, and I'm not saying everyone was raised with that, but there is definitely like I would say, in my experience, an Asian humility in the way that we receive work, right? In the way that we receive opportunities, that for me at least has been really hard to be like, okay, you are grateful, but you're also a professional. So go ask for what you need, like that self-talk,
Absolutely. Thank you, Brinda, for calling out the larger systemic power dynamics that perpetuate the disenfranchisement. Really, like if we talk about the model minority myth, like so many things are ingrained through culture. So thank you for pointing that out. Do we have any other questions from anyone else? You can jump in the chat. You can just.
It's not great.
Okay, take it away. Okay, go ahead.
Hi, my name is Shaili Dadiala. Brinda, we briefly email exchanged a few years ago, so we need to catch up again. I'm based in Philly. I actually want to say, and Ben, it's nice to meet you. I have never known about you before, but I trust Phil and Gold Standard to keep making these introductions. I have to say, you both, what I have learned so far is you both have been incredibly honest, even though I feel like you are from pretty disparate positions. At least that's what I heard and what I interpreted, that you have not like, Ben has not said, oh, yeah, sure, that's been my experience too, to just like, wrap himself around and agree with what Brinda is saying. So I love that you both are acknowledging that what you have seen for what it is. And one thing that Phil posed, and I think that question is still standing, that it looks like we still don't have an answer for that. That once the box is checked, not just for presenters and funders, that we have been presenting this Bharatanatyam company for more than 30 years for international tours, and that's it. And every time this you see, your kind of people do get platforms. So it goes to presenters, it goes for audiences, funding, marketing, everywhere. And so correct me please, because I want to hear otherwise, as a dancer, choreographer, and producer, that it's always like a fight to, you somehow always feel you're throwing other people on the bus and saying, but we're different. It's not like there is a kind, it's like literally billion of us. So it's not like there is one template style for anything. So we are also kind of respecting each other, but wanting to stand out. Let's be honest about this. We are performers. We are show-offs, peacocks. And at the same time, we do want to do some kind of solidarity. So to me, I sound it sounds like it stays unanswered, that how do we go about dissolving these boundaries or making the gap smaller? But like you said, Brinda, also not constantly educating, having the burden to educate and become an educator all the time. And
Right.
to be seen for your work. So it looks like it's
Yeah, I think I would say you're right that there isn't like an actual just definitive. I can't see one yet. This is like the work I'm in every day. I'm trying to find that solution. I don't know what it is, but I do know that when you have meaningful curators, when you have meaningful presenters, when you have thoughtful people in these positions to make these decisions, things change, right? Things shift. And so how do we get there? Okay, we redefine what an arts worker is for ourselves. Okay, cool. Now we did that. Then we work on building trust within our community so we can bolster up the people in our community in various positions of the arts workers ecosystem. Okay, cool. We did that. Now we're kind of everywhere. And so now we can build more equitable programming. But I can see a dream world where it's just working a little bit better, you know? But I don't feel the fruits of that labor yet. And so I hold this space of tension with you.
I think some of the examples that Phil is uplifting, I know a lot of the work that Final Bell for Yellowface really focuses its efforts on are on, and correct me if I'm wrong, predominantly ballet companies and or like repertory companies, which I think is a whole other model. I think Brenda and I are sort of consciously or subconsciously, like really, we've been talking mostly about like presenting institutions, like organizations that present many different artists. They don't have their own company of dancers. It's sort of a conveyor belt, for lack of a better word, I'm sorry, of independent dance makers being presented on a stage on a season. But like a repertory company that invites in a choreographer, I think I do see a lot more of this issue of the box checking. And I wonder if some of it has to do with like, I mean, they have artistic directors, but they're not really hired to be curators or like thinkers of, like, it's like these repertory companies need a dramaturg or something, or I don't know, someone to really more holistically really think about the ecosystem of dance makers, or like how a season is put together. I was asking a friend about New York City Ballet season about this, and I'm like, who puts this together? And it's like, oh, it's Wendy and what's his name, John. And they're like, they had an opinion about it, and basically it was just like they don't have taste. Was this person's point of view on the matter. I love them dearly as like leaders, but yeah, I think curating a season or inviting in new talent, new creative creators, that's its own skill set. And I think maybe they need a producer to like really holistically think and produce a festival of new works instead of that selection task going to the current people who do it. I don't know enough about those structures, but.
Right. And even in thinking about studying curatorial practice, there are a lot of programs out there for visual arts, and that curatorial practice and that field has been developed, right? But then when you think about curators of performance, those programs, there's fewer of them and they're newer. So I think that we're seeing this evolution of like how we think about programming being developed, and also the skill sets and the language and the whole institutional academic infrastructure that then feeds who those arts workers are. So there's a lot moving and shifting, but I want to get to this question. Outside of open calls, how do you find new presenters and curators? Do you have a system to target this on the administrative side?
Who's
I have my makeshift answer, but I feel like Ben's more equipped for this one.
No, I don't. Who's the subject of the question? Like outside of open calls, who's finding presenters and curators? The artists?
An artist. How does an artist find new presenters and curators?
I see.
Is that the question, Rohan? I just want to make sure we're answering the question.
Yeah, yes, that is the question.
Damn, sorry. My answer is that it's bleak. No, I'm about to throw in the towel. I mean, I have these people on speed dial, but I cannot get a presenter to answer my bleeping emails about wanting one of my pieces to tour and happen. And I don't know.
I feel the same way, Rohan. Rohan, nice to see you on this call. Thank you for being here. Rohan's work's amazing, everybody. Please check it out. What an amazing talent. Please look at all his stuff. I feel like it's bleak as hell. Sorry. But what I will say is this. We artists have a couple of more things we can do. Like, we have a couple more tools we can build. And those tools include an EPK or a press kit, whatever. An electronic press kit. You can keep your CV updated. You can make sure your stuff is concise. You know, you can make sure we put a little bit, I mean, I hate to act like we have different hats because I feel like I'm one person and I don't like being split into 5 people, but we do need to put on that hat of like, how do I explain what I do in 3 sentences for somebody, right? And how do I have more collateral to put my stuff out there? So when you're doing your pitches, which we're all doing, right? We're sending emails, we're writing to people, whatever. You just have more concise information. A lot of times what I get is like full bios of companies and full, like, so much information, like the longest CV I've ever seen. And like the assumption that presenters are going to sit there and read that is not good. Don't have that assumption. They'll never do that, right? But if your stuff is kind of more direct, I feel like a lot of artists don't have an EPK yet or a press kit. A lot of artists don't necessarily have a properly written artist statement. You know, I sit on a lot of grant panels and I'm like, sorry, artists, but like, we got to get our artist statements together. Like, you know, we're talking about our biography, but we're not talking about our work, you know? And so there's a couple of things we can tighten up. That's the only productive piece of feedback I have. And a lot of us already have our stuff together, and it's just a matter of getting lucky and sending it to the right people. But I definitely say, don't give up. Keep writing to people, write to management companies, write to presenters, write to maybe like programming people on the website, not just the head honcho, but like other folks that work on the team, right? They might be the ones who go out and see shows, right? It may not be the head honcho every time, right? So, keep going, but don't just keep doing things the same way if it's not working for you. Like, find ways to tighten your materials. You can always, anyone here can send me stuff and I can look at it for you. And find ways to talk about what you do and be direct about it.
And I know we said bleak, but in this one chat, Rebecca, you're offering that you're a new presenter, you have a newish gig. Do you want to speak about your work?
Yeah. So I'm gonna unmute. I wanted to share vocally because it is a unique situation, but I think probably gonna be more common in the immediate future, hopefully. So I'm Rebecca. I lived in New York for many years, and now I'm in the Bay Area. And I have recently gained curatorial oversight at the organization I work for, which is called Bridge Live Arts, formerly Hope More Dance. And the reason why we are a new presenter is because Hope stepped down as the white founder, and we moved into distributed leadership. And we also now, with Hope's absence, have a hole that we need to fill in terms of how the organization is presenting live work, because it was formerly Hope's work. And so the organization is at a crossroads, excitingly, in which we have become a new presenter. And Cherie and I, my co-director and me, have shared curatorial oversight. And what has actually been interesting is I've struggled to get artists to respond to me when I email them saying, hi, I have curatorial responsibilities. I'm super interested in your work. Tell me about your work. Granted, I just got here. So like I, can only talk to so many people at once. And I'm here sending my little emails where I'm like, I'm going to reach out to an artist once a month. And the meat and potatoes of my life is in operations and development. And so when I'm not doing that, I'm sending my emails being like, I haven't met you yet. Let's chat. But it is a big question for the organization and we're interested in exploring it further. So I put my email in the chat, which is my work email because I do share the many hats life. But it is a question, and I will also share that in my short few months here in the Bay Area, I have also noticed that the opportunity for showing work in progress has diminished greatly here in the Bay, and we don't really have the opportunities that it seems there used to be from talking to folks who've been here longer that are akin to draft work and what used to happen at Gibney or even before that. So that's kind of like a cross-national perspective I have now. And so one of my questions is like, how can Bridge Live Arts as a new presenting body fill that gap a little bit? We're okay on the like DIY presenting work, and then we're kind of okay, but not really on the like major presenting work, but that the big gap is in that middle. And we are mostly focused on Bay Area, but I can do maybe one national artist a year, but we're really focused here. So yeah, I'm excited. Send me your stuff. And also, I think in the like artist responding to email, I produced for Will Rawls, and he's in the visual art world, and it's really the language is there for curators to say, let's set up a studio visit. But that doesn't seem to translate as much to the dance world. And as someone who's immunocompromised, and I also work remotely, and Bridge Live Arts doesn't have an office per se, I try and go see as many shows as possible, but there isn't as much like a thread of, hey, can we just hop on a Zoom and you give like a presentation about your work? That doesn't seem quite as authentic or like rooted in the dance culture. So I'm curious about like what that translation of that studio visit might look like for embodied practices, for dance practices. And maybe, Brinda, this is what you're pointing to as well in terms of like what actually is helpful is to see the clip, like almost what you would submit to a grant, which is like the work samples, the artist statement, like the mission, what you're trying to go for and how that aligns with what Bridge Live Arts is doing. So,
and in terms of, Rebecca, you and I have worked a lot with Dance NYC, and it's also really important that the service organizations like Dance NYC is a good example, is a really great bridge builder here in terms of resource sharing, because there's a lot of information out there about how you can kind of present your work without having to take in like 16 Zoom calls that week, right? Because like there is an in-between. It doesn't feel like there is, but there is an in-between, and artists need to know that. And I spend all of my remaining time that I have making sure like through mutual aid efforts that I'm telling artists in my community that I'll look over your stuff because your stuff can be way more concise, or you can have work samples ready to go, or these are things that are free. There's a lot of things that you can do. You got to put in a couple of hours and the know-how, and we can like put a package together, right? And there's ways for people like you, Rebecca, to experience other people's work in that middle area. But the thing is, a lot of times artists feel like their stuff has to be this fancy thing, and we're not, it doesn't. And so whatever we can do, people like me and Ben, whatever we can do, and Nadi, who's here, hi Nadi, who's here, whatever we can do, because we're in those both worlds, I think is really important to make sure that we tell artists that there's eager presenters out there. There's eager presenters out there, and you have to answer their emails, and it'll be less exhausting to answer their emails if your materials are in order. And so let me help you get your materials in order. And I think that that's one part, and in service organizations with resources to do that for free or for low cost. I think that those are places where we can tighten.
Okay, I think we have come to the end of the questions in the chat, and perhaps this will be a moment where we can end the conversation. And then Phil, I know that we don't have too much time, but we can perhaps go into the community building portion for a bit. But I wanted to thank Brenda and Ben so much for their generosity of insight, and just you can feel the love and the care that they bring to their work as an artist, as a presenter. And I'm just so thankful. So thank you for coming into Gold Standard, and I hope this is just the beginning of you all here with us.
Thank you so much for having us.
Thank
Go,
you.
Ben, go.
Thank you, you too. I just wanted to close this session with the folks who are here. Thank you for sticking out to the end. Really just a simple sharing for us. If you just want to introduce yourself, say your name, what you're working on right now, and what you need from a community like this. What would be helpful for you? That's all. Just take a minute. Who are you? What are you working on? And what do you need from a community like this? So maybe I'll start. I'm Phil. I'm a choreographer. I'm currently working on my third book, and I'm teaching university in the fall. And one thing that I need from a community like this is to be able to share resources and to make sure that we're all talking to each other so that we aren't all siloed in our own spaces. Being the only Asian in our spaces when we are all together, we should be talking more. And so this community and building this is really important for me to make sure that not only do I have it, but many other people have this this community that we can all just like call each other and be like, Asian Mafia, what's up? Like, I need something. That's why I'm doing this. So anybody else? Everybody's working on something, so don't be shy. This is about you. Because maybe if you tell me something, what you're working on, I might know somebody that can help you out. So this is where like put out the good juju in the universe. Sugar, I saw you unmute, so tell us what you're working on.
Oh, I'm working on a childhood memoir piece called Antonym. And I started it in 2019, then the pandemic happened, and then I finally started working on it again in 2023. So I'm finishing that and I guess trying to find a home for its premiere right now. And yeah, I had places that were interested, but then like the space wasn't right anyway. So and I'm still trying to finish my oh, that's a dance and music piece, and I'm still trying to finish my solo piano album. And I guess from a community, I mean, I just really want I feel like you know, before the pandemic I was going to a lot of things, and and then when it happened I sort of lost a little bit of that of feeling like I was part of something, and so I'm trying to rebuild that. Yeah, I'm starting a series like you said, Ben, there are a lot of these work in progress things that have kind of diminished, and so I'm trying to start something similar to Judson, but for sound based, or anyone experimenting with sound. You don't even need to be a composer. If you're a dancer who's messing around with sound, I want to create a place where people who are working with sound to show things that are still half baked, and yeah, try to meet other people and network as well.
Hey all, I am actually working on a new dance piece with my company that is going to have a work in progress showing in September and a premiere in the fall in our big production show that we do every year. Super excited about it. It's dance play is the best way to describe it. Lots of speaking interwoven with dance, and it's kind of talking about traditions on love, marriage, relationships in South Asia, but from a queer perspective, and also thinking about how the queer stories kind of existing in that world could also talk about the classism, colorism, sexism, patriarchy that is embedded in these traditions, but all through comedy and satire, because I love that. I love comedy and satire. I guess what I would love from this community is to go see other people's stuff. I just saw Sugar perform at the Brooklyn Arts Council's award ceremony, which was awesome. And yeah, I'd love for y'all, my community, to also come see my work and production, the full thing. So yeah, I want to kind of similar to Sugar, go see more stuff and, you know, be part of that. Yep.
I'll jump in. On that note, both of your notes, Sugar and Rohan, is go see more dance. But I think a little bit of advice I have is to also include people in your process earlier than the presentation. Maybe like always inviting somebody, a couple people you know in the draft versions, I think is also a really cool way of getting people invested in your work and helping it push out when it's time to push out. Easier said than done. I think for me, what I'm looking for right now, so I'm going on my first kind of multi-city tour with the trio, and I'm curious about tech writers, to be honest. I'm curious about sound and floors and safety and how to, Sugar, like you were saying, sound. So much of our work in the trio is choreography, and so much of it is music making. We're making music with our feet, right? So trying to find ways to create kind of like we have a tech writer, but create something really comprehensive, because the goal for me as kind of like a community organizer is to make sure I can give this rider or template to other percussive artists in the city, you know, so that they have a tool that they can advocate their work with. And what we have right now is very specific to tap, flamenco, Kathak, 3 women. Like we have a very specific need. But I'm curious about designing a tech writer, working with a sound engineer to help me design it, you know, how I can create a kind of broader template for percussive dance writ large. So that's what I'm kind of working on. What I hope from this community is some resources if you know anybody. And then also the advocacy and programming of more percussive work. The more of us out there, the better, I think. I think percussive dance is it's important, and we can't be scared of making that kind of sound and noise. So I think it'll be helpful.
Anyone else? All right, last call.
I don't know if you can hear me. Can you hear
Yes,
me?
we can. Yes.
Oh, hi everyone. My name is Nadi Thekek. This has been so wonderful to hear you all talk. I love coming to these events. So thank you so much for putting it all together. I am a Bharatanatyam dancer and experimental mover working with live music. I direct a dance company called Nava Dance Theater out in the Bay Area. So Rebecca, I'd love to connect. I know we haven't had a chance to meet since you moved here, but I'm a big fan of Bridge Live Arts at Carla and Curator. And right now I am touring a work called Rogue Gestures, and we are going to the East Coast. We're going to UMass and Amherst in November, and we're trying to figure out a venue in New York for November 3rd. And the presenter that we have, they don't have a venue themselves, so they're trying to book something, and so that's where we're in the process of right now. And we're working on a new piece called Tea with Demons, addressing sort of the political chaos that straddles the US and South Asia right now, and sort of historically, and kind of looking into the future and what that looks like. But yeah, this is, I don't know what, I mean, I don't know exactly, but I just happy to share my work and what I've been doing and continue to build these connections and relationships with y'all.
You've already got someone willing to hook you up in the Bay Area, and Brinda's already offered to help you hook it up in New York. Like, this is the Asian mafia.
Thanks for
This is what we need.
the mafia.
This is literally what we need. So thrill. Anybody else? Last call. Well, thank you so much for being in community. Sarah, thank you so much for putting
Oh,
on and hosting such
can
a
I
great.
say something?
Yes,
Can I
please.
say something?
Go ahead.
Yes, my name is Eleanor.
Hi,
I
Eleanor.
started
Nice
it.
to meet you.
Hi. I started the Asian American Dance Theater in the early 70s. So I'm retired. I'm not working on any project, but I'm very happy to be in this conference or this Zoom call, and I'm very happy to see so many of us doing something. When I was active, there were very few of us, and there were very few of us, so there were very few opportunities, no venues, and everybody has to struggle really hard. And I can see that everybody is still struggling, but there's so many more Asian American dancers, choreographers now. And it seems like everybody in many different fields in this performing arts. So I wanted to thank you, Phil, and everybody else for your contribution into this field and into the Zoom. And I'm very happy and honored to hear so much different voices and new dancers, choreographers, presenters, and new experiences. So I just want to say that. Thank you.
Glad to have you, Eleanor, as always.
Thank you.
It's also nice that we have folks across the generational spectrum, folks just starting out and folks who have been in the trenches, you know, for ages and ages. So it's just like
Yes.
all together in community, you know, many of the same conversations, but also new conversations. So
Yes.
yeah,
Right.
nice to be in community. Have a lovely rest of your evening. Have a safe rest of your July, and please join us on August 13th for a session with Christine Chen and career transitions. So also coming up, and please tell your friends, the more people we have joining as members, the more resources we can put back into the community. So thank you so much. I'll see you in a month. Good night, everybody.
Thank you, everyone.
Bye. Thank you.